Hi guys, I'm coming back to you again about the nvidia situation with a story of my own. Uh, I don't know if you guys know if I've mentioned it or not, but I have been a journalist for 20, 30 years in print media. I don't do it anymore because it didn't pay enough. But um, I worked for Computer Arts, 3D World, a whole bunch of other titles at Future Publishing, and before that, EMAP. And I recall I reviewed Poser 10, and as a courtesy with very technical reviews, it was my practice to send my review to the company before I published it, submitted it for fact checking. So it wasn't for them to change my opinions, it was just for them to correct any factual inaccuracies. And the Poser 10 actually had a lot of new features, but they were all a bit high end and not very well implemented. And I was a bit frustrated in my review, so I said as much in my review. I said that the features were not well implemented. And at the time, Poser was owned by Smith Micro, and I had a press contact there, a guy who was quite well known in the industry for a long time, was quite close to Larry Weinberg, I believe it was, the guy who invented Poser. And I sent my review to him for checking, and rather than come back to me, he went straight to the advertising department of my magazine. And the advertising department contacted my editor, and my editor insisted that I changed the review to something more palatable. Basically, I was forced to take anything that was opinion out of the review. And obviously, if I'm saying it is my opinion that this feature is poorly implemented, and now I have to take that out because it's only an opinion, everything in a review that can't be measured is an opinion. If it can't be quantified, then it's an opinion. Whether a game plays well, or whether it's good value for money, or whether you enjoyed it, they're all opinions. But if you have to take all the opinions out, then the review becomes substantially thinner. And it makes me recall when I worked for EMAP a long time even before that. That was, I believe, I was working for 3D World and maybe Computer Arts at the time. And way before that, I worked for EMAP on a magazine called CU Amiga. And back in the day, it was common for companies to fly our journalists, not me because I wasn't a games journalist then, but it was common to fly our journalists out to special events for shows. I can't remember if we ever did CES, but we certainly did one of the big game shows in America. And the whole point was that if you were there on the company's ticket, that they had you in their pocket. And nowadays, it's really obvious that that is what you call access journalism. If you treat us right, we'll retain access. You can see the games early, which will increase your sales because you can put it on your cover before the game's out, and so more people will buy your magazine. And the more I think about it now, I'm looking at this situation with nvidia, and they're really trying to control the narrative around their shitty graphics cards. And the whole 50 series is an abomination in terms of price, value, features, amount of memory, just bad in so many ways. And so what they want to do is control the way that these graphics cards are reviewed, so that generated frames get reviewed as if they were actual frames. And they've been really coming down heavily on lots of professional reviewers in the space, but the one who's kind of taken front and center is a guy called Steve at Gamers Nexus, who in my opinion is probably one of the most ethical journalists out there. And he was saying that nvidia have been trying to pressure him by kind of alluding to the access that he gets to staff within nvidia to do special features on the hardware or how the cards are called. So Steve has access to their engineers, not just their marketing department. And the strong implicit comment is, nice access you've got there, shame if something were to happen to it. And the more I see stuff like this, the more I think access journalism is just absolutely shit. And the mistake that Steve made, although it's an easy one to make, is that he got way too close to nvidia. Obviously, he thought that he was serving up good content, which he was, but he was doing it at the expense of his impartiality, or at least there is that risk, because now he's in a position where he either has to risk losing that. He's already lost his access to the pre-release access to the cards because he's obviously on nvidia's naughty list, and now they're threatening to take away his access to the staff members that make him videos that help him to keep his business running. Now, Steve has come out incredibly strongly and told nvidia to fuck right off. And Hardware Unboxed and what's the other guy's name? Jay-Z. Arguably, they've both jumped on his bandwagon to try and get a bit of reflected glory by saying how true they are, but how much integrity they have. I don't know about Jay-Z. I guess I don't really like the people at Hardware Unboxed. I think they're really thin-skinned, but I think they probably do have integrity. Jay-Z, I think, is just trying to hitch his wagon to the issue du jour. But I just thought that you'd be interested to hear about my own experience of access journalism. And, this happened for Poser 2010, which, Poser 10, I think it was, in 2013. And so even though it's 12 years ago, I'm still pissed off about it. And my editor, whose name I won't mention, that he capitulated to the marketing department, the PR, the advertising department. And as a result, now you know that you can't trust their reviews fully. So if you see a company that's really close to a software developer or a hardware developer, it used to be the case that we respected, their industry contacts and how close they were, and they must be good because they're really in with nvidia. But nowadays I see it as a badge of dishonor, not as a badge of honor. So if you see a company that can't get free samples, who doesn't have access to nvidia's closest staff members, that's probably because they had some integrity. So bear that in mind when you're looking at reviews of nvidia cards. The ones that come out first are not necessarily the ones that are the most honest. They're often the ones that were most willing to toe nvidia's party line. And it's not just nvidia that's doing this, it's other companies as well. They all think they can bully the journalist community. And with many YouTubers nowadays, they're quite happy to suck a bit of dick in return for access. Perhaps be careful which reviews you trust. You guys take care, and I hope you have a great week.